Hello everyone, how are you? Hope you're doing well. Welcome to this webinar on behalf of the TEFL org. My name is Carl, I'm a teacher trainer here at the TEFL org. I help people to become English as a foreign language teachers around the world. If that's the sort of thing you're interested in and maybe you're new to the industry, then hopefully this webinar will help you out. As I said, my name is Carl. I'm doing this webinar with Alan, who will be managing the chat because this is a live webinar. We're live on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn. So basically, any questions you might have about teaching English as a foreign language, if you put them in a chat, they'll come up on my screen here and I will answer them. Also, please do let us know where you are in the world. I'm here in Northern Ireland. I work as a teacher trainer. As I said, I do that online and face-to-face. I also work as an English examiner for a couple of the EFL exam boards. I'm an online teacher. I also do some face-to-face teaching. I've been in this industry for about 20 years and I've taught in places such as Vietnam, Sri Lanka, China, Iraq, Azerbaijan, Spain and Italy, Kazakhstan, I taught there for a bit, Japan, I don't know if I said that one. So yeah, I've been lucky enough to have taught in many places around the world, and I want to help you to become an EFL teacher if you're going for your first job, because that is the topic of today's webinar, applying for your first teaching English as a foreign language job. So I'm going to show you a few slides. I'm going to talk a bit about the process, what you need to get, a little bit of advice for things like interviews and applying for jobs. But please, as I said, do say hello. Let us know where you are in the world and get your questions in the chats. There's some hellos coming in there. I'll catch up with them in a minute as we get going. Right, okay, so applying for your first TEFL job. So, right, what do you need to be a TEFL teacher? So this is talking about English as a foreign language. So basically you're teaching people whose first language is not English. Now you might be teaching people who have quite high level English, but it's probably their second language or third or fourth languages in some cases. I'm going to talk a bit about teaching online. So if you want to just be talking about, you just want to be an online teacher, going to talk a bit about that. If you want to do face-to-face teaching as well, either in your own country, because there's probably a market for in your own country, or going abroad to teach, then I will also talk a bit about that. So the first thing you need, and I think this is more important than your qualifications and more important than your sort of grammar knowledge, for example, the first thing you need is a bit of enthusiasm. EFL, you need to have a little bit of energy in your classes sometimes. You also need to have a bit of energy to sort of throw yourself into new cultures. You need a little bit of energy to be teaching kids, because a lot of the classes you teach will be kids classes. And I think a lot of that comes from enthusiasm. And I have interviewed people, I have trained teachers, and I tend to find the ones that I wouldn't give a job to, or the ones that don't come across as great teachers, are the ones that are a bit sort of bored and don't really have the enthusiasm for it. So I think the first most important thing is to have a bit of enthusiasm. Now, practically though, things that you can get is a TEFL certificate. Now here at TEFL org, we train people out to be TEFL teachers, and this is our speciality, helping people to gain this EFL, Teaching English as a Foreign Language certificate. Now, we aren't the only providers out there. There are other providers. And I would suggest to you that you sort of have a look at different providers, you know, check the reviews, check to see what sort of company you're going to go with before you go and do your teacher training certificate. But whatever you go with, whoever you go with, these are the two things you need to check. You need to check that it is a minimum of 120 hours study. That's 120 hours of learning, basically. And you've also got to check that it's accredited, whoever you go with. Now, what does that mean? It means that an outside body or an outside company that's nothing to do with the training company that you get your certificate from has been checked by this outside body. This outside body has come in and they have checked that the videos that you're learning from are great, the tutors that you spend time with are qualified and knowledgeable, And this is important because when you then go to apply and you show a copy of a certificate, companies will check your certificate to make sure that it's a good quality one, okay? You also need a bit of patience. Now, you need that when you're teaching with the students, but also you need it when you're applying for your first job, because it can be a bit tricky getting that first job in any sort of industry, but in EFL as well. So you need a bit of patience in the application process. Now, do or don't you need to have a degree? Right? You don't need to have a degree to be a teacher, okay? You can be an EFL teacher without a degree. You just need this 120-hour certificate, all right? However, you will find as you're looking for jobs and you're applying for jobs that there are certain countries where they want you to have a degree to get the work visa. It's not to be an EFL teacher. You know, if you're going to go to another country, for example, China is one of the countries where you need a degree. If you're going to go there work as an accountant, if you're going to go there to work as a fireman, if you're going to go there to work as a train driver, and you're not born in China, you don't have Chinese residency, you will need to have a degree to get the work visa. It's nothing to do with EFL. It's to do with the country's rules. And there are some locations where you do need a degree, some locations where you don't need a degree. Places such as Europe tend to be really good for non-degree jobs. It's really sort of depends on the location. Now, if you're going to work online, you obviously need a computer and an internet connection. Now, you will need to have generally a computer. To go work for a company, they don't tend to take people on who just have a mobile phone and try and teach through a mobile phone. They don't generally take people on who have a tablet. What they're looking for is a PC or a Mac, and it can be a laptop, doesn't have to be a desktop, but they're also looking for a fast internet connection. And companies will check your internet connection before they give you a job. I get my internet connection checked quite often. There's companies that I work for that check my internet connection a couple of times a year to make sure that it's still fast. Okay. Thank you for all the hellos. David, hi in Lincolnshire. Charles in Chicago. Kim's in Cape Town. Oh, I had a lovely year in Cape Town many years ago. Kim, it's a beautiful place. Sergio's in Vancouver, but that's cold. Is it in January? Yes. Jennifer's in the Republic. Hi, Jennifer. I'm up in Belfast. Gavin's here in Essex, and there's more hellos coming as well. Any questions you have, please do put them in the chat. Right. So those are the things you need. And the key thing out of all of those, I think, is enthusiasm. The second key thing is to actually get your certificate, to get certified. As I said, 120 hours is the magic number. When you see job adverts, you will see this 120 hours. And if you've got your TEFL certificate for a company that has 120 hours, you should be fine. Okay. Now, these certificates are all done online nowadays, okay? So you sort of log in, you learn at your own pace, you can replay the videos over, you can read the things over and over again. They're all online. They don't tend to be live. Now, here at the TEFL, we do offer online teacher training that's live, but that's on top of your certificate. It's self-paced, so, you know, if you've got 2 weeks, and you've got nothing on for 2 weeks and you can do 60 hours, you could do it in 2 weeks. However, if you can only sort of manage to do 10 hours a week, it takes you 12 weeks, absolutely fine. As I said, check that the course is accredited, whoever you go with. Now, if you are new to TEFL, I recommend that you think about extra modules on top of the basic 120-hour certificate. So these are specialized modules in different parts of EFL. Teaching English as a foreign language has lots of different streams. There's teaching legal English, teaching business English, teaching medical English, teaching kids, teaching beginners, teaching intermediate, teaching upper intermediates, teaching academic English, teaching exam classes. All of these are slightly different ways of teaching. And if you're going to if you're new to it, if you've got these extra modules, that will make you stand out a bit. They're great if you've got no experience in teaching English as a foreign language. They're also great if you don't have a degree. Now, if you're applying for a country where you don't need to have a degree to get the work visa, if you're applying and you haven't got a degree and you're going up with someone who has exactly the same 120-hour TEFL certificate, but they do have a degree, and you do the similar level in the interview, you do a similar level in your application, the chances are the company's going to give it to somebody with a degree, the job. However, if you've got your 120-hour TEFL certificate, plus you've got a module in, say, teaching young learners, so that's a specialist module where you learn a bit about teaching young learners, that will help you stand out a bit. And also, if you want practical experience, think about doing an extra module in terms of spending the weekend or 3 evenings a week, whatever the different types of time frame you go for on the course. You spend that time with someone like me, you get to chat to a trainer, you get to do a practice lesson. You might then be able to put that more on your CV, put that more on your certificate. The other thing that you might want to think about if you're kind of new to it is to go through a company that has links to internships. Now, these are basically internships which will take you to a country and help you to get trained up. So you'll get the train up, but there'll be like new training for the teachers when you're there, if that makes sense. That doesn't make sense. I'm going to say it again. Basically, you get your 120-hour TEFL certificate, but you've got no practical experience. If you go through something like an internship, the company will take you on knowing that you don't have a huge amount of experience, and the company will help you when you're there, okay? Now, Alan, who's running the chat, will put a link into some of the internships that we work. Have a little look at them, see if they're the sort of thing that you fancy, see if these are the sort of things that you are eligible for, and maybe think about doing one of those as well. They're great when you're new to teaching English as a foreign language. So you've got your certificate. My next step would be to look for destinations. Now, again, I've done lots of webinars on lots of different regions and individual countries around the world. So have a look on this YouTube page, this Facebook page, look for the other videos, maybe do a little search. If you want to go to South America, type that in, watch a video about where I talk about the different countries in South America. Don't just think about countries, also think about cities. For example, China is massive with lots and lots of big cities, some of which I've not heard of, even though I've lived there. Vietnam, for example, has lots of different cities. Thailand has different regions. Don't just think, okay, I want to go to China. Do you want to be in the north where it can be quite cold in winter? Do you want to be in the south where it's quite tropical? Do you want to be in a big, massive city, or do you want to be in like a medium-sized 5 or 6 million people city? Think about the cities as well as the countries, okay? Work out where you can go on your passport. Maybe you want to do this first. Maybe you want to just sort of dream big and look at the countries first. It's kind of up to you. As I said, I don't think I've mentioned this. There are countries around the world that will only give work visas to certain other countries, okay? So you've got to sort of think, right, okay, I've got a Vietnamese passport, I've got an Egyptian passport, whatever it is you might have, check what sort of countries you can go to and work in. And then you found, right, you want to go to Cambodia, look for jobs that are available in Cambodia. I'm going to talk a bit about that in the next step. And then also start to think about the types of students you want to teach. Do you want to teach adults? Do you want to teach young learners? Do you want to teach business English? Do you want to teach exam English? Okay. Thanks for your question, Gavin. I will definitely get that. Okay, I'll definitely get to that in a second. Right. How to choose a job. Okay, so these, I think, are the 3 best websites to go to look for jobs. They're basically the ESL Cafe and TEFL.com are basically, not entirely, but they're basically like recruitment sites. Companies will advertise on these sites jobs that they have around the world. You've got a language school in Valencia in Spain, you need a teacher, you go to ESL Cafe, you pay it for a listing, you put some details, teachers look at it and they apply, okay? Most of the applications are done externally from these sites, but they're really, really good to find jobs. TEFL.org, which is our website, also has job listings, but it also has things like blog pages. It also has sort of guides to countries. Now, these websites do have some of this, but probably not into as much detail as we go to, all right? Now, if you see a job, don't be put off by experience needed. If you think about it, if you're a language school and you're paying for a job advertisement, you're probably going to put experience needed, even when experience isn't needed. All right. Basically, every manager, when they put up their advert, they put experience needed. Now, if nobody really applies, or the people that do apply with experience aren't applying very well, and you go in there with your no experience, and you do a good job, you've probably got a good chance of getting the job. Okay. Don't also be put off by native speakers only. Now, there are two reasons why companies put this. Okay. Now, the first reason might be absolutely nothing to do with the company thinking that native speakers are better teachers than non-native speakers, which isn't true. All the evidence has shown that. Basically, the reason they have put native speakers only is because their country that they are based in, their government will only accept people from America, the UK, Ireland, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, the main English-speaking countries. Okay, it's nothing to do with the company; it's to do with the government. It's unfortunate, but that's basically what it is. Now, the second reason is that wrongly, there is this thinking out there that native speakers are the best teachers. It's not true. The quality of the teacher is the best speaker. Whether you're native or not doesn't make any difference. But companies do put native speakers on because it's easier for them to get students in their marketing if they can say they've got native teachers. I hate it. It's not good. But what I would say is, what is native speakers? Are they saying that they want someone with a proper English accent, or do they want someone with native level? If your English is fantastic, you can prove that. Apply for the native speakers ones, okay? Apply for a couple at a time. Don't just put all your eggs in one basket and just apply for one job. You know, think if you see a couple in China that you like, go apply for a couple. I wouldn't apply for like 10 or 20 all at the same time, because you're probably just going to copy and paste your application. You know, you got to tailor your application a bit. Also, if you apply for like 10 or 20 and you get rejected by 10 or 20, there might be something wrong with your application. Whereas if you've applied for 2 and you don't get it, you might stop and have another look at your CV or have another look at your job application. Basically, read the advert and do some research as well. Do some research into the country, do some research into the city, do some research, if you can, into the types of students that are going to be there and what sort of classes you'll be teaching. Right? You might want to start writing your CV now as well. Now, this is needed for online and it's needed for in-person. It's not just one or the other, you know. You will, if you're applying for an online job with a company, you will need to send in a CV. Now, if you've got no experience in teaching English as a foreign language, highlight any communication skills that you might have, okay? And any sort of jobs or any sort of education experience that you might have had in the past, such as customer-facing roles where you've had to deal with customers, you're using your voice, teaching is about using your voice. Any work with children you might have done in the past, even if it's volunteering, fantastic. Put that in your CV, because that works. It's the sort of thing that companies are looking for around the world. If you've delivered presentations in a job or presentations in your school, put that, and because that, again, that's communications. Any work where you have trained someone, put that on your CV. Companies, when they're looking, teaching companies, when they're looking for newly qualified teachers, if they can see that sort of thing, that will definitely help you. If you've done group work in education where you've had to work together as a team verbally, that kind of thing also works really well. Right, work on your interviews, start to plan your interviews. Now, I've done a webinar where I completely talk for an hour on interviews, might be worth looking at that. Now, wherever you're from in the world, even if English is your first language, check your pronunciation. There are parts of the English-speaking world where it can be quite difficult to understand the voice that you've got. So, for example, I live here in Ireland. Sometimes I find that Irish people speak too quickly and I can't really understand them. And when I do teacher training courses, I will have a teacher who knows their grammar, knows their vocabulary, but they're speaking English with a strong Irish accent. It's quite hard to understand them. In an interview, companies will check your pronunciation. So wherever you're from, even if English isn't your first language, or if English is your first language, check your pronunciation, okay? Be honest with yourself. Go back through your course notes, the things that you've learned on the 120-hour class, okay? And the 120-hour course, and just see if there's anything that you can learn there that you can put into your interview, okay? Be honest in the interview. You know, don't try and blag that you've got loads of experience. If they're a good interviewer, they will be able to judge that themselves, okay? Be honest. Say that you're not, haven't got lots of experience, but I've got enthusiasm. I really want to do this. I really want to teach Chinese students because of this. I really want to sample Vietnamese culture because of this, okay? And do some research about the students you will teach. So I've done webinars, for example, where I talk about teaching Spanish students and pronunciation problems that Spanish students might have, writing problems or speaking, reading problems that Spanish students might have. There's loads of websites. If you've got an interview with a company in Venezuela, actually that's Spanish speaking. Let's think of a country, Russia. You got an interview with, in Russia. Put into Google Russian learners problems with English. You'll find loads of websites about that. Okay. Keep the answers about the students if you can. Try and bring your interview answers back to students. Yes, talk about yourself, but if you've got no experience, talk about how you can use that knowledge you've just gained to help the students. You know, you want to teach in Thailand because the beaches are nice, because you love Thai green curries. You've heard about Thai students and how friendly and how respectful they are, and you really want to teach them. Keep the answers about the students. Now, some companies, especially online companies, will ask you to do an introduction video or an example lesson, okay? Now, what are they looking for in this? Again, I've done webinars about this, but really what they're looking for, firstly, they're looking for your speech and your personality. They're looking for you to not be talking too quickly. They're looking for you to be easy to understand, and they're looking to see that you're smiley and that you're happy, okay? Right, next, they're looking for some basic TEFL knowledge that you would have learned on your 120-hour course. Basically, do you know the stages of a lesson? Do you know about a warmer? Do you know something about like controlled practice, freer practice, this kind of thing? If you can show that, now the lesson doesn't have to be an hour, but if you can just try and show it really, really quickly in sort of 10 minutes, 5 minutes even, that would be great. Maybe don't go down the grammar route. Think about the vocabulary route, because that's quite generally a bit easier to teach quite quickly than grammar would be. Right, don't do it in one take. Take your time, look at it, rewatch it, okay? Get it checked, ask your friends to check it. Also, like on Facebook, there's groups. We have our own TEFL group where lots of ex-TEFL teachers are talking to each other, or current TEFL teachers. I mean, you know, people that have done the course, ex-people that have done the course. If you put in there, please, can you check out my introduction video? People will be able to give you honest chat about that. Smile in it, okay? Don't look stressed. Don't look scared, okay? Just smile. A lot of it is about them checking your personality. Right, now, if you're doing it on your own and you've got no students to practice with, pretend, you know, oh, thank you. What do you think, John? You know, just show them that you're doing an example lesson with students, okay? You might feel like an idiot, but showing that you're focusing on the students really, really helps, okay? Right, some final thoughts before I get to your questions. So please do get the questions in. Great one there from Gavin, which I'm going to talk about next, and David. Right, some final thoughts. Right, when you're applying for your jobs, be patient. Don't think that just because you've got the 120-hour certificate, jobs are just going to fall into your lap. You have to make an effort. Companies do take a long time to apply. Sometimes companies will advertise for the job 6 months in advance. Sometimes companies will advertise for jobs and they want someone to start next week. Take your time, be patient about it, okay? If you get rejected at the start, don't get disheartened. It's not an EFL thing. Okay, it's a good thing to it's not a good thing. Sorry, that's the wrong thing to say. Lots of jobs, lots of industries don't take on people straight away with no experience. Take your time, look at your application. Maybe think about different cities that are less popular, countries that are less popular. Don't get disheartened if you are getting rejected. Okay, be realistic. If you're seeing jobs where there's sort of advertising Saudi Arabia for 70, 80,000 pounds a year or dollars, because there are jobs like that, lots of people will go for it. Okay. Like, for example, for some reason, I never get it because I don't like the place, but loads of people want to go work in Dubai. Loads of people apply for jobs. If you're newly qualified and you want to go for it, I mean, try, but you're probably going to be up against lots of people that are, in fact, applying for that job. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. As I said, don't just think, right, that's the one job I want. That sounds perfect for me. I want to go for that. Apply for 2, maybe 3 at a time, just in case one doesn't work out for you. Learn from any mistakes. After you finish an interview, when you finish your interview, write down some of the questions that they've asked you. Okay. So because there are certain questions that get asked a lot, and think, okay, what the answer I gave, do I think it was a good answer? I'm not so sure. Maybe that could have been better. Even sort of do a tape recorder, because a lot of these interviews are on Skype. See if you can record it. It's horrible to listen back to yourself, I know, but try and learn from any mistakes you had. Now, the other thing, if you really want to go work in Madrid and you're not seeing any jobs advertised in Madrid, then start emailing language schools in Madrid. See if they want someone. Now, they might not want someone full time, so they haven't advertised anything, but they might want someone for, say, 8 hours a week. And then you find another language school that wants someone for 8 hours a week. All of a sudden, you've got almost a full-time wage coming in there. Start being proactive, because that can get you work. That has got me work in the past. Okay, not just waiting for a job advert to come up, but actually thinking about, right, I really want to go there. There must be language schools. Google. There are language schools. Hi, here's my CV. I'd really like to come work for you. That has worked for me in the past. Okay. And finally, be polite. If they haven't replied to you after a week, I've had, when I've advertised people and people have sent in their application a week before the deadline. And then on the deadline, they're emailing me saying, I haven't heard from you. Why haven't I heard from you? I'm not going to give that person a job. Be polite, give them a bit of time. If you are going to email them to chase them up, do it in a nice, friendly, formal way. Okay. Right. Thank you for the questions. Right. Let's get back to the first one. I hope you're still here, Gavin. Sorry, I know that was about sort of 15 minutes ago. You put the question. Right. What is the most effective way to teach business English or niche topics online? Right. So, sort of 2 different things there that you're sort of wanting to, I'm guessing you want to know. Right. The first thing, by effective way, do you mean like in order to help a student's English? Now, teaching online, the theory behind teaching online and the theory behind teaching face-to-face is almost exactly the same. Basically, you've got to be a communicative teacher. You've got to give the students time to talk. You've got to give them pair work. You've got to get them talking to each other. You've got to get them working in groups. If it's individual, it's not. If you're doing one-on-one, which a lot of online teaching is, it's not a lecture. It's getting the students involved as much as you can, getting them speaking as much as you can. All right. So the theory to help be an effective, good teacher is the same. And if you do a good TEFL certificate, you will learn that theory. Right. Now, the next thing I think you're probably looking to ask is about business English and niche topics online, as in finding a niche. Now, Gavin, tell me if I'm wrong. Gavin is probably saying, how can I get a niche to teach? Now, for those who don't know, basically a niche is a small part of EFL. So, for example, you could be a low-level teacher of English to Italians, and that could be your niche. And it's easier to find students online through your marketing if you do that. Okay. Now, if you want to be a business English teacher online, this is quite a good choice because lots of students around the world will pay slightly above the average rate for business English because it tends to be quite important to them. It can help them get another job. It can help them to get like their product sold. It can help them with their marketing, whatever it might be. Okay. Now, I'm going around in circles, but I'm hoping I'm answering this, Gavin. Basically, to find your niche, just think what can be Googled. There are lots of tools within Google themselves or with external websites where you can help you to do sort of keyword searches. Now, if you're going to go online, you're going to go out by yourself. I would go for countries where they have slightly above average money coming in, especially if you yourself are in a country where you need average worldwide or higher money. So, for example, if you're a teacher in London, where London is expensive, you're probably not going to want to go after, let's say, one-on-one students in Bangladesh, because they probably haven't got enough money to pay a London average wage, right? So what I would start to look for is the richer countries. And then I'd start to make yourself sort of Gavin, the email teacher, because business English writing, email is a big thing. You know, Gavin, think what would be interesting to you and you can make lessons about marketing, Facebook posts, social media posts. Okay. I think that's what I would sort of go down, things that I'm interested in, and just see if you can create lessons from that. Okay. And then you've got to get your marketing right. I've done webinars where I talk about that sort of thing. Okay. Gavin, give me a follow-up question if I have not answered that. I'm reading all your feedback there as you go. Now, David, you've got loads of questions. We're going to try and answer them. Hi, David. Is there an age limit for applying for the internships? Let me do that one first. Each internship will be different. Now, some countries around the world have an upper age limit that they have for people to come in on work visas. Okay. And the reason they have that is because they don't want sick elderly people to come there and then something happens to them and it costs the country a lot of money, or it costs the person a lot of money, or the hospitals a lot of money. Okay. So that's the reason they tend to have that. All right. Now, so basically go on the link that Alan's put in the chat and see about each one individually. See if you fancy this, right. Can you apply with a career changer? 100% to gain experience in the qualification. 100%. Lots of people come to TEFL later on. I didn't start teaching English till I was sort of in my late 20s. I know people that have started teaching English in their 50s. You know, it's really easy. Career changes is a big thing, and there's a great little industry for that, I think. Okay, lots of companies around the world like taking on elderly is the wrong word, older, mature teachers than youngsters straight out of university in some places. Which locations do I think are ideal for first timers? Interesting one. So I'm not so sure that there's a perfect country for that. What I would say is that you will find companies advertising online that have quite like a chain of schools, for example, and not just one individual school. I think they can tend to be quite good for first timers because they're generally quite big schools, and they will have hopefully a good sort of managerial structure. So you'll have the director of studies that will probably interview you, but underneath him or her will probably be senior teachers. They might have coordinators, depending on the size. And that's good for first timers, because if you've got a lesson to teach for the first time and you're not sure how to do it, you can go to this coordinator or this senior teacher and say, hi, help me. Okay. They also tend to, not always, but they tend to have quite a lot of resources, which is good for first timers and newer people. I think countries such as China, you can't really go wrong for first timers. Again, because there's chains, they're quite well set up. What I would probably be a bit aware of would be sort of smaller schools that are just looking for sort of one teacher. Okay. My first job abroad was in Vietnam. Absolutely loved it. Right. What companies do I believe are most suitable to acquire online work? Right. So basically, companies don't tend to care so much where you are. So, for example, a Chinese company, yes, would it be great if they could get sort of Australian teachers that are on a similar-ish time zone? Yes. However, if you're David and you're happy to teach at 2 in the morning or 3 in the morning, and plenty of people are, if that's you and you can tell them that, they'll probably take you on. Okay. Now, the most suitable companies, this changes quite often. Go on our website, tefl.org, do a search for online companies. You'll see a list that gets updated. All right. I personally get my own students online. I don't go work for companies. All right. Have I discovered that there is also a demand for advanced business students to learn social business? Yes, for sure. Yeah. That's a big part of teaching business English, is teaching the culture. Yeah. And David, if you have experience in this, that will really set you up for jobs. Companies like taking people on who have experience in business. Okay. So if that's the sort of thing you've got experience in, companies and universities where they teach business English courses as well will definitely take you on. Okay. Gavin, I'm glad that helped you. If you've got any more questions, then do put it in. I think that's all of us. We've been chatting for 40 minutes now, so it's probably about time to wrap it up anyway. Look, thank you, Gavin and David, for your questions. If anybody else is watching, thank you very much for tuning in. I'm sure other people are watching. Please, if you enjoyed this, please do put in the chat why you enjoyed it or why you didn't enjoy it. A bit of feedback is a big part of teaching, and I need some feedback on my webinars as well. I hope I've answered your questions. If I didn't get a chance to answer your questions, we have other ways to be contacted. Our website has a chat with us function. You can send us a message through Facebook, but I think probably a great way is to go onto our Facebook group. That's like if you do a search for TEFL.org on Facebook, it's a little chat group. I monitor it. Alan, who's been doing the chat, who works for TEFL.org, he also monitors it and things like that. But other people like to answer the questions. We've got a whole load of other things on our websites. We've got blog pages. We've got links to podcasts. We've got video interviews, all this kind of thing. If you're on the fence about becoming a TEFL teacher, first thing I would do is to start look at some of the courses. Okay, there's some taster courses and things like that to see if it's the sort of thing that you're into. But you know, it's a great way to travel the world, and it's a great way to meet other people if you don't want to travel the world and you just want to teach online from your own room. Okay, thank you very much, everybody. I hope you enjoyed it. Have a good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the world.